Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classics/Non-Classics. This is episode number 1579 and Doubleshot number, I think it's like 1473. Yeah. This one I'm only discussing just, one trade and the 6 issues that came that actually are not printed in this trade, which is something. We have the third and final trade for Batman the Outsiders. This is the third volume, known as End of the Line. This book only collects issues 24 to 32 of Batman the Outsiders, the second annual, and DC Universe Presents. DC Universe Presents issue 83. This is actually 11 issues before the final issue came out. Yeah, the final issue was issue 83. Just team up with the Outsiders and Superman. Now, the thing with these issues are we actually get a brand new member join the roster, and she is standing right between Katana and Black Lightning. Who is that character? That is Looker. Her real name is Emily Briggs. Now, later on, they basically made her on... if you see her pop up in the Chuck Dixon run, Batman the Outsiders 2000s, you probably notice though she acts a bit different. And people also probably familiar with her when she popped up in those National Comics one-shots, where Looker is a vampire. But here's the thing about it. This is pre-vampire Looker, where you can kind of think of her as a cheap ripoff of Jubilee. He has like these prodigious powers. Now, in these issues, we actually do have something. Now, in the second annual, I should point out though, this annual is quite unique. It actually does tie up a loose end from this book, and that was basically during the issues prior to this that Rex Mason and Stephanie Stagg got engaged. Even though that Simon Stagg didn't like it very much, but he was perfectly willing to accept Rex Mason as his future son-in-law. Of course, Jav himself was there too. Now, they initially tried to have the wedding in the annual, but at that point, you think like, oh, marriage is going really well. Like, the ceremony was all dressed up. And then it turns out, though, that the guy trying to marry Sapphire is not Rex Mason. Nope, it's an imposter. Yes, it relates something related to Simon Stagg. And here's the thing. They actually have a reference in this book to actually Metamorpho's second ever appearance from Brave and the Bold 58. Yeah, he was actually... Here's the thing about Metamorpho, about this character. He was the last tryout character for Brave and the Bold before... Excuse me. Where he became like... Or became specifically like a Batman team book. Yeah, he was the last official one they created. Yeah, this character popped up in like issue 58. You can kind of say this is a follow-up to that. Yes. Yes, it is. Yep. I thought it was quite interesting though. They follow up with him, like, because he got this basically after like 2 appearances in Brave and the Bold, he just got himself an ongoing series, which didn't last very long. Nope. And mostly put the annual was kind of taboo and for Metamorpho stuff. Eventually, the Outsiders 2 rescue Sapphire, and of course Rex thinks that Simon was responsible for the whole gas incident and the kidnapping of Sapphire, which he was suspected because he might be against the wedding. But it turns out, according to Batman, nope, he had nothing to do with it at all. And the thing is, he gave all the Outsiders antitoxins, but he gave Simon Stagg a stronger dose because he's got a weaker... his constitution is not as strong as everybody else's. Well, probably because he's older. Which... good on Batman to do, and thank God that basically Mike Bird remembered, oh yeah, Batman's a detective. Of course he would know this. So they go out and they rescue Sapphire. And initially they think the wedding is off, but nope, wedding's not off. Like, after they rescue Sapphire, like, basically Simon just openly welcomes him as his future son-in-law. Yep, and then they have the wedding, and that's it for that. We also, now that happened the annual, that happened the second annual. This was also the last ever annual ever released Batman the Outsiders. Well, Outsiders themselves would have a few other annuals published after this, when it was simply known as the Outsiders. But as Batman the Outsiders, no, this was the last one. They're like, when they brought the name back in the 2000s, did they have a name for that one? Nope. They have it for the Revived series that came out, that ended just recently. Did they have an name for that one? No, not that I can think of. If I remember, they never had an annual. No, they never did. Well, not that I remember anyways. Yep. So, pretty much the first storyline they get involved with for several issues in here. Aside from the debut of Looker, we also have the Outsiders deal with Cobra, which I believe is not the only time they've dealt with Cobra. They've dealt with Cobra several times. I believe this is the first time they've ever dealt with them. So you have Outsider versus Cobra in a rescue, Halo, who had been kidnapped by them, and it's overall a really good story here. And then we have stuff leading into the end of Batman's time with the Outsiders. Yes, the end of Batman's time with the Outsiders, where it relates to Markovia, where the country is under siege, and of course, well, we also have stuff related to the character Denise, who is Geoforce's, well, I think it was his first, he actually had married her, despite the fact later on he was actually in love with Katana. Yep. Here's the weird thing, though. Like, he actually started dating her. Yeah, he started dating her briefly, and then, like, it revealed, like, oh yeah, he actually did not have a thing for Halo, he had a thing for frickin' Katana. Yeah. So, Batman decides not to get involved. Of course, you think in issue 32 he disbands the Outsiders. But according to the Outsiders, they're like, nope, we're not going to disband at all. And Batman has got no problem with it. So he walks away from the Outsiders because I think DC probably figured those probably in time to basically go back to the Justice League. Especially since even though the Outsiders probably can do well on their own. I mean, here's the thing. Prior to this, I mean, Metamorpho and Black Lightning were pretty prominent characters in DC Universe at this point in time. So, they figured that, okay, with these characters here and some new characters, so that they could gel really well. And right after issue 32, the book was retitled to Adventures of the Outsiders. I will talk about just a minute. But, yeah, in the case of Batman, where did he go as soon as he quit the Outsiders? He went back to the Justice League. Not kidding about that. He went back to Justice League after 3 years being away from the team. He came back to the team for the last year of Justice League America before it got relaunched as Justice League in 1987, which he became a prominent part of the roster up until around the early 90s. And then for a few years, he did not associate himself with Justice League until around 1997. And from that point forward, Batman was prominently part of the Justice League. The only time he took away time from Justice League after 97 was during the brief time he was dead for a couple years. But after that, always involved with Justice League at some point. As for the Outsiders, he would occasionally get involved with the Outsiders after this. So, in the case of what we have here for the third and final trade of Batman Outsiders, it is fantastic. Now, Mike Burr is the main writer for the book. He still remained writer up until the second volume. Third volume was not done by him. That was done by Joe Winnick. The artists of these issues are Alan Davis. I forgot to mention he actually is a pretty prominent artist who still does occasional artwork this very day. We also have Ira Navik, David Hunt, David Ross, and Dan Atkins. We also have the character named Windfall, who does briefly join the Outsiders. We also have debut of a new team. Now, I did not discuss this team previously. This was a group known as the Force of July. They appeared in the very first, and I forgot to mention them, which they are a group who did return for the pages of Bath Bloodhaven. And then we had the return of them in, well, we also had another group they fought known as Mass Disaster. Windfall actually quit the team. Yep. Yeah, she quit the team and then she joined the Outsiders briefly. Yeah, she did. She joined the team for a brief period of time until she was added part of the Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. And where is she currently? Like, where did the original version of her? She died. In the second to last issue of the third volume of Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. Her sister was the leader of the Mass Disaster. She was around up until Flashpoint happened. Now you might be asking, did Windfall ever appear in the current continuity? No, not really. She has never returned at all. Nope. But yet, she did join the Outsiders very briefly. Mm-hmm. But in the case of One of Those Adventures of the Outsiders, this was actually a really good book. Like, for Batman Outsiders. I love this stuff for the Outsiders. And I'm going to give the trade itself a 10 out of 10. It's a really good book. Mm-hmm. Now, the best way to describe the book that briefly replaced this book, Avengers the Outsiders, it's mostly, the best way to describe it is basically Time's Loose Ends from Batman the Outsiders before it got relaunched as, well, as simply The Outsiders. Because because here's the thing, Alan Davis was the writer of the book. He continued to be the artist book up to issue 38. And they mentioned, you read the book, and at the end of issue 39 it says Jim Perry returned, but the story continued in the pages of Outsiders #1. Mostly put in the case of the first few issues, we just basically continue where we left off here. Here's the first issue of the book. Yeah, first issue of Avengers of the Outsiders. It didn't last very long. No, it basically only continued as... It was basically a continuation of what Outsiders did. But basically, it was published regularly up until issue 39, where from 39 to its final issue 46, it was a reprint comic. Yep, a reprint. Mostly put in the case of the first issue, we pick up right where 32 left off, where the Outsiders, minus Batman, go to Markovia to free it from the forces that invaded it. Who invaded it? The Russians. Where basically kidnaps one of the people who they were attacking to free the country. And here's basically Geoforce basically saying this. Here's your prisoner, Black Lightning. And he's like, I will not talk under the Geneva Convention, under my rights. And Geoforce basically breaks the guy's hand and says, rights? You attack my country and you speak of rights? And like that's an easy Geoforce. Now you soften him up. I'm sure you'd be very glad to chat. Yes, the Russians attacked Markovia. Yep, so... We have stuff related to Emily Briggs, a.k.a. Looker. Yeah, it was stuff related to her. And of course, well, here's the thing. The original king of the country, he died back in the first issue of Batman the Outsiders. That was Geoforce's father. The current ruler of the country is Geoforce's brother. Geoforce at one point was briefly the ruler of the country, and then he stopped. Then, of course, in this issue, he decided to have, the Outsiders decided to fight the Masters of Disaster, which, of course, Windfall and Halo are actually really good friends. And, of course, she wanted Windfall to quit the Masters of Disaster to join the Outsiders. She did. She briefly joined the Outsiders. Yep. And at the end of the first issue, probably one of the most weirdest things that the villain of the story decided to do. And I think this is supposed to be like the guy who hired the massive disaster decided to do something really stupid. Like he knocks out this Navy guy to basically reveal, oh yeah, he has in his stasis tube Adolf Hitler. I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, Adolf Hitler's dead. I'm like, what the heck is this? It is by far one of the most baffling things. I mean, Adolf Hitler? Yes. So the Outsiders are captured by the massive disaster, though Windfall, and of course, Looker decides to use her powers to change people's minds. She, of course, she's separated. She basically got separate from the Outsiders. And, of course, this guy who, is working with the massive disaster is basically an employer. And, massive attack places. And, of course, you have Adolf Hitler in his full uniform, which, by the way, I have seen pictures of Adolf Hitler. There is no way he dressed like this. He never. He did have the swastika sash, but him dressing this way? No, he never did. From what I've read, he wore his old World War I uniform a lot of the time. That's what I've heard. Yeah, a lot of the time when he appeared in public, he always appeared when he basically wore his a military uniform. He wore the outfit he wore in World War I. Because he basically wore. Looker decided to use her good looks to basically break in to free the Outsiders. More fighting with the massive disaster. Yeah. But it's a really good set of stuff. You're like, yeah, and then of course, like, we have this guy who's a Nazi who, like, ooh, such a pretty girl, and then looks at her necklace and it's a Star of David because she's Jewish. Yep. And we continue on in issue number 35. Yes, more of the storyline related to the Markovia stuff and Adolf Hitler. Like, what the heck? Yes, a Nazi tries to take over frickin' Markovia. The massive disaster one. Nothing to do with him when he finds out the whole thing of... Yeah. So Hitler himself... turns out he's actually just a robot. Well, supposedly he gets killed. And then, of course, the Outsiders tear up the camp. Yep. And then pretty much in issue number 36, we kind of, in a way, wrap up this story arc here related to Markovia. And then, of course, the Outsiders are basically awarded medals by Geoforce's brother. Where you have Halo is like saying this, boy, this looked great with my overbills. And Metamorphos thinking, a medal. Sapphire is going to go ape. Katana. True honor comes within. Still the gesture is appreciated. Geoforce. The highest award my country could give. He's like, I'm sure he'll work it. Looker. Not bad for former assistant clerk, and this is just beginning. And Black Lightning. Medals are fine, but a life savings will count. Yeah, that's Black Lightning for you. Yeah, and this is, of course, Geoforce's birds, thanking them for all they've done. Windfall, of course, sorry, turned against the massive disaster. And then we have the wedding of Geoforce's brother. Basically tries out for his new outfit. His up ripping. And then we see him get married to... Is it Looker, you might ask? No, he does not marry Looker.
Okay, you're not making a video this second?
I am making a video.
3:45, no time to die. Mom doesn't want to go, right?
Okay. Yeah, so... yeah, he marries his wife, Elena. Which, of course, She first appeared in Outsiders #4. This probably is before she got introduced. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got married in this issue. Though she got killed off in Outsiders, well, the first issue of the revived Outsiders series in 1983. Yep, when the whole country was taken out by freaking vampires. Yep. Yep, so everyone agrees to work together with Markovia. Well, except for Looker. So they think Windfall's going to stay, but nope, not really. She just goes off on her own. And everybody pretty much like just goes home because they all miss basically various operations, headquarters, top secret. So, yes, for the next couple issues, even though we kind of wrap up the Markovia stuff. Yep. Yeah, then of course Looker basically talks to her husband. Yeah, this is her husband. Of course, they go out and go to LA. And why are they here? Well, it's revealed over the course of the next couple issues of exactly the reason why they're here. You can kind of say that for these next two issues, it's setting up what we see in the first issue of The Outsiders. Mm-hmm. Where the Outsiders are going to LA, they're going to the beach. They first are going on a cruise ship for issue 37, which is a really good issue. Run into this woman known as the Marine Marauder. Which I don't think she pops up again after this. No, not that I could think of. Like, yeah, this was her first appearance. She popped up a few times after this. She popped up in the very next issue. And then she popped up for Flash 66. And that's it. Yeah. And apparently she's not the original Marine Marauder. Yeah, and apparently she does appear in the current continuity. Or she appeared in the Ocean Master Villain of the Year issue where she died. Yep. Yep. So she makes one appearance in Ocean Master. Yeah. So the original version of the Marine Marauder, he appeared in one issue, fighting Aquaman. Yes. So this one, her name is Marlene Simmons. Yes. She is the second Marine Marauder, and she appears this issue and the following issue. And the Outsiders just fight her just for this two-parter. There's a whale in this issue because, of course, there's a whale. Probably a nod to the old issue where the original fought Aquaman. But this is a pretty good two-parter. And then we have like the end of this, with issue 38 before I got relaunched as The Outsiders Volume 1. Well, here it is, the final issue of Avengers of the Outsiders when it was publishing new stories, because with 39, like I said, reprint series. So we have Cherry Von Eaton as the artist. Yes, Alan Davis, I believe, left with issue 37. Yes, I believe he did. Or was it 36? Yeah, I think 36 was his last issue he worked on. Yeah, Alan Davis worked on just that issue. And you have Trevor Von Eaton, really good artist. Met this guy, nice person. He does these issues here. And of course, to fight the Marine Marauder, which she gets defeated in this issue. And then pretty much like right after she's defeated, it's basically kind of like a two-story book, per se, when it comes to this. Yeah. It's like Marine Marauder pops up here, and then we have, well, then we have them fighting, of course, in the story, the Nuclear Family, which is probably before their first official appearance. Yep. And of course, they have everybody just coming together, coming to LA for some reason. We have the girls in bikinis, which I always love seeing as fiction. Yeah, and the girls being Looker, Katana, and of course Halo. And of course Halo's wearing, and it's not surprising. Looker is not only the tallest of the three, but she's the one wearing an actual bikini because Looker is hot. I get the fact. Well, yes, Katana and Halo are beautiful too, but damn, no wonder why she's called Looker. So they go to this oil rig off the coast of California, and here's the thing: this oil rig becomes a new base operation for the Outsiders. Yep, yeah, it becomes a brand new base, and then we have set up for the Nuclear Family at the end of the story, which story continues in Avengers in the first issue of the Outsiders. Yes, this is called Station Markovia. And they will be based off here for a brief period of time. Mm-hmm. Yes. Like, this would be their temporary base for a little while. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the whole thing with Station Markovic, by the way, the covers basically, look at the covers. I'm trying to think here, like, how long were they based out of this place? Well, that was until they got Batcave West. Yeah, that first popped up in the 19th issue of The Outsiders. Does this place actually appear much? No, not really. Appeared somewhat in the first volume for Outsiders, but yeah, I think that by the time issue 18 rolled around, from what I can tell, I think they pretty much just, let's see. I'm trying to see here, like, what was the last issue they officially used that oil rig as their base? Was issue 16 of the first line for Outsiders. So about a year they used as a base operation before they officially stopped using it. Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, not much else to say about Adventures of the Outsiders. I mean, like I said, the best way to describe the 6 issues of it is that the first 4 issues are just continuing something that just continuing the story that Batman Outsiders left off, just wrapping that stuff up there, and then the final 2 issues, it's just a backdoor pilot into the relaunch of Outsiders, which, from what I read, the first issue was released the very same month issue 27 for Batman the Outsiders came out. So the book had been around, like, it jumped ahead 1 year in the future. Now, this is one of 2 books that DEC did it with. You know what the other book was? New Teen Titans. Yes. Where they released the first issue the same month as another issue, where, like, that issue was taking place 1 year in the future. And issue 38 continues in the very first issue of The Outsiders. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it's great, though, the fact they have this new base operations. Like, this is where they're based for a year before they switch over to Batcave West for a while. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the time the Outsiders, were headquartered on the West Coast. I think also at this point in time, I think they were the first official DC team to be headquartered on the West Coast. Well, this was years before the Teen Titans based out on the West Coast. First time they did that was back in 2003. This was 1987 when they moved out there. Yep, 1987. Though sometimes they were all based in Makobe as well. But yes, in the case of my final thoughts on Adventure Outsiders, a good set of issues. I kind of wish DC would have collected these issues. I'm hoping they would at some point because you could basically see this in their volume because the third volume is not very long. It's only like just 8 issues. It's only like 9 issues from the main series, an annual, and an issue of DC Universe Presents. That is roughly like 11 issues. It's not very long. I'm like, really? Yes, really. I mean, excuse me. It's kind of like one issue less than last one, which had 12 issues in it. Now, currently, I don't know if there's any plans to collect any more issues of The Outsiders. My only guess is the reason why Batman and The Outsiders because of the more recent run for the series. But I kind of wish DC would also do the first 2 volumes of The Outsiders. But I would think they would include in the very first trade for The Outsiders these 6 issues of Avengers The Outsiders. And probably include the covers for issues 30 to 46. Because, like, the very first issue of Avengers of the Outsiders, like, issue 39, which came as the very first reprint issue, that is a reprint of issue number 1. Yep, that's pretty much all that is. And I think issue 40 is a reprint of issue 2. Yeah, it's a reprint of issue 2. 41 is issue 3. 42 is issue 4. 43 is actually issue 5. 44 is issue number 6. 45, 7. And the final issue, 8. So you can definitely kind of say that they pretty much reprint the first 8 issues of The Outsiders in just these last 8 issues. Yeah, but unlike Tales of Teen Titans, which actually a continuous reprint series for quite a while, like Tales of Teen Titans lasted for a good like 60 issues before they finally stopped. My only guess is because that actually sold really well. Avengers the Outsiders not sell too well as a reprint series. Yeah. But not much else to say about this stuff. It's good. Okay, so that's it for particular review. Stay tuned for next review, which will be a review of Black Clover. Okay, next video. Bye.